When the humans said they waited for allies, but Earth sent avenging ghosts, the warning beacon cut through the silence of deep space like a scream in the darkness. Commander Penelope Tavian jolted awake in her quarters aboard the U.S. Phoenix, her hand instinctively reaching for the emergency comm unit beside her bed. The ship's AI, designated Iris, spoke in its calm synthetic voice. "Commander, we're receiving a priority distress signal from the Proxima Centauri system. Signal appears to be of non-human origin." Penelope was already pulling on her uniform as she responded. "Route it to the bridge. I'll be there in 2 minutes." The Phoenix was one of Earth's newest deep space reconnaissance vessels, equipped with experimental quantum drives and advanced sensor arrays. Penelope had been commanding long-range missions for 6 years, but they had never encountered an alien distress call before. Humanity had been exploring beyond their solar system for only a decade, and while they had discovered evidence of other civilizations, direct contact remained elusive. The bridge hummed with activity as Penelope arrived. Lieutenant Commander Kai Nakamura, her first officer, looked up from the communications console with concern etched across his face. "Commander, the signal is weakening, but we've managed to clean it up enough for translation. Iris is working on the language matrix now." Penelope settled into her command chair, studying the tactical display. The Proxima system was 3 light-years away, a 2-day journey at maximum quantum speed. "What's our current mission status?" "We're 12 hours ahead of schedule on the Outer Rim survey," replied Chief Navigator Riley O'Brien from her station. "We could make the course change without compromising our primary objectives." The communications array crackled to life as Iris completed the translation protocol. What emerged from the speakers made everyone on the bridge fall silent. "This is High Curator Velth of the Kytherin Archive. Our world burns while we speak these words. The hegemony has come with ships that blot out our sun. They demand submission, but we are keepers of knowledge, not warriors. Our civilization spans 12,000 years, yet we have no weapons to match their hunger for destruction. If any compassionate species receives this transmission, know that we do not beg for salvation. We ask only that someone remember we existed. The children should not have to see this end." The transmission repeated, growing fainter with each cycle. Dr. Anya Volkov, the ship's xenobiologist, spoke first. "Commander, based on the transmission characteristics, I estimate they have maybe 18 hours before their communication grid fails completely." Penelope stared at the star chart, calculating distances and possibilities. The Phoenix carried a crew of 200, with light defensive capabilities. Whatever was attacking the Kytherans had clearly overwhelmed an entire civilization. "Iris, patch me through to Earth Command. Priority Alpha." Admiral Marcus Cross appeared on the main screen within minutes, his weathered face showing the strain of recent months. Earth's expansion into deep space had been met with increasing resistance from unknown entities. "Commander Tavian, report." "Admiral, we've intercepted a distress call from the Proxima system. An alien species called the Kytherans is under attack by something called the hegemony. They're facing extinction." Cross leaned back in his chair, considering. "What's your assessment of the tactical situation?" "Unknown, sir, but based on the desperation in their transmission, they're dealing with overwhelming force. The Phoenix isn't equipped for a major military engagement." "Understood. Continue monitoring the situation and gather intelligence. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary for your own survival." The screen went dark, leaving Penelope with an order that felt like abandonment. She looked around the bridge at her crew, good people who had volunteered for the dangers of deep space exploration. They had all heard the pain in the alien curator's voice. "Set course for Proxima Centauri," she said quietly. "Maximum speed." Kai raised an eyebrow. "Commander, Admiral Cross said to monitor only." "He said not to engage unless necessary. We can't monitor a dead civilization. We're going to see what we're dealing with." The journey to Proxima took 36 hours. As they approached the system, the Phoenix's sensors began painting a horrific picture. The third planet, which showed signs of advanced civilization, was surrounded by a massive fleet of dark, angular ships. Energy signatures indicated continuous bombardment of the surface. "My God," whispered Dr. Volkov, studying the sensor readings. "There are over 400 ships in that fleet. The planet's atmospheric composition is changing. They're systematically destroying the environment. Lieutenant Commander Nakamura looked up from his tactical station. Commander, I'm reading massive life sign disruptions on the surface. Population centers are going dark one by one. Penelope felt sick to her stomach. They were watching genocide unfold in real time. Any sign that the Kitharans are fighting back? Negative. I'm detecting no weapon signatures from the planet. It appears they were telling the truth about being peaceful. Chief O'Brien suddenly straightened at her station. Commander, I'm picking up movement from the enemy fleet. 6 ships are breaking off and heading in our direction. Red alert. All stop. Power down all non-essential systems. The Phoenix went into stealth mode, its experimental hull coating designed to scatter sensor sweeps. They watched as the hegemony ships approached, sleek predators hunting for prey. They're scanning the area, Nakamura reported, but they seem to be missing us. Technology appears less advanced than I expected. The enemy ships circled the area for 20 minutes before returning to the main fleet. Penelope had used the time to study them carefully. The vessels were clearly designed for intimidation and brute force rather than sophisticated warfare. Iris, any luck establishing communication with the planet's surface? Affirmative, Commander. I've located what appears to be an underground transmission node. The signal is weak, but operational. Put it through. The voice that emerged was different from the first transmission, younger and filled with desperate hope. Unknown vessel. This is Archivist Nexo speaking from the deep vaults beneath the Great Library. Are you here to help us? Penelope took a deep breath. This is Commander Tavian of the Earth vessel Phoenix. We received your distress call. What's your situation? Earth? We have never heard this name. You are not of the hegemony? No. We're explorers from a world called Earth. We came when we heard your call for help. There was a long pause. When Nexo spoke again, his voice cracked with emotion. You came for strangers? Beings you have never met? That's what we do, Penelope replied simply. How many of your people are still alive? Perhaps 50,000 in the deep shelters. The hegemony landed ground forces 6 hours ago. They are hunting survivors with methodical precision. High Curator Velth, he died protecting the archive entrance. His last words were about the children. Dr. Volkov leaned toward the communication array. Nexo, this is Dr. Volkov. We want to help, but we need to understand what we're facing. Tell us about the hegemony. They are the devourers of cultures. They travel from system to system, taking what they want and destroying what they cannot use. They have consumed hundreds of worlds over the past millennium. They gave us 1 day to surrender our archives and our young ones for servitude. When we refused, Nexo's voice trailed off. Why do they want your archives? Penelope asked. Knowledge is power. The Kitharan people have been the galaxy's librarians for 12 millennia. We have collected the wisdom, art, and science of every civilization we have encountered. Our archives contain the secrets of 1,000 dead worlds. The hegemony would use this knowledge to conquer more efficiently. Lieutenant Commander Nakamura looked grim. Commander, if they get access to that much accumulated knowledge about galactic civilizations, they become unstoppable, Penelope finished. She made a decision that would change everything. Nexo, we're going to get you out of there. All of you. Impossible. You have 1 small ship, they have 400. Let us worry about the odds. Can you get your people to specific extraction points? Commander, Kai interrupted. We can't evacuate 50,000 people with the Phoenix. Penelope smiled for the first time in hours. We're not going to evacuate them. We're going to make the hegemony leave. She opened a channel to Earth Command. This time, Admiral Cross wasn't alone. The entire Defense Council appeared on screen, their faces showing the weight of the moment. Admiral, I need to make a request that's going to sound insane. Try us, Commander. I need every available ship in the Earth Fleet, now. Fleet Admiral Helena Reeves, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's military, stepped forward. Commander, our entire fleet consists of 37 vessels. Most are still experimental. It'll have to be enough. Against 400 enemy ships. Commander, that's not strategy, that's suicide. Penelope looked at the tactical display showing the dying world below. Admiral, 6 hours ago we discovered we're not alone in the universe. We found out there are people out here who collect knowledge and art instead of building weapons. They preserve the history of dead civilizations instead of creating new ones. And we're about to watch them be exterminated by bullies. She paused, letting her words sink in. 6 months from now, those same bullies are going to show up at Earth with all the accumulated knowledge of the galaxy and 400 ships. We can fight them here now, while we still have allies to save, or we can wait for them to knock on our door with 500 ships and perfect intelligence about how to destroy us. The council members exchanged glances. Admiral Cross spoke first. What's your plan? The hegemony technology is focused on brute force. Their ships are bigger and more numerous, but they're not more advanced. They've been bullying peaceful civilizations for so long they've forgotten how to fight anyone who fights back. Chief Navigator O'Brien looked up from her calculations. Commander, even if every ship in Earth fleet arrived simultaneously, we'd still be outnumbered more than 10 to 1. Then we don't fight fair. Penelope turned back to the council. Admirals, I need you to trust me on this. Send everything we have, but not all at once. Send them in 3 waves, exactly 4 hours apart. Fleet Admiral Reeves frowned. That gives the enemy time to adapt between waves. That's exactly what I'm counting on. The next 12 hours were the longest of Penelope's life. While Earth's hastily assembled fleet raced toward Proxima Centauri, using experimental quantum tunneling drives, the Phoenix maintained communications with the Kytheran survivors. The numbers kept dropping as hegemony ground forces systematically cleared the underground shelters. Dr. Volkov had been working with the Kytheran archivists to understand their culture. Commander, I'm learning incredible things. They don't just preserve knowledge, they preserve the essence of civilizations. Art, music, philosophy, even the emotional context of why species made certain choices. If we lose them, we lose the accumulated wisdom of the galaxy. We're not going to lose them. Archivist Nexo's voice came through the comm, weaker now. Commander Tavian, the hegemony has breached the outer shelters. We have perhaps 6 hours before they reach the deep vaults. Hold on, Nexo. Help is coming. You keep saying this, but how can 37 ships defeat 400? Penelope smiled grimly. Because 37 Earth ships aren't fighting 400 hegemony ships. 37 Earth ships are fighting one hegemony commander who's gotten lazy from conquering defenseless civilizations. The first wave arrived exactly on schedule. 12 Earth vessels led by the heavy cruiser UES Defiance dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the Proxima system. The hegemony response was immediate and overwhelming. Nearly 200 ships moved to intercept. All ships, this is Defiance Actual, came Captain Morrison's voice over the tactical channel. Execute Plan Alpha, hit them hard and fast, then break off. The Earth ships charged directly into the center of the hegemony formation, weapons blazing. For 30 minutes, space erupted in explosions and energy beams. The Earth vessels were outgunned, but they were faster and more maneuverable. They struck at the heart of the enemy fleet, targeting command ships and communication arrays. Then, just as suddenly as they had arrived, the Earth ships vanished back into quantum space. The hegemony commander, a massive creature called War Prime Thakmor, was furious. His fleet had suffered minimal losses, but the audacity of the attack stung his pride. He ordered his ships to spread out in defensive formations, ready for the next assault, which came exactly 4 hours later. The second wave consisted of 15 Earth vessels, including the carrier USS Liberty with a full complement of fighters. This time, the attack came from 3 different vectors simultaneously. Earth fighters swarmed through the hegemony formation like angry insects, targeting sensor arrays and weapon systems while the larger ships provided covering fire. Again, after precisely 30 minutes, the Earth forces withdrew. War Prime Thakmor was learning. The enemy attacked in waves, used superior speed and coordination, and never stayed to fight a prolonged battle. He began recalling ships from other systems, building his force to over 600 vessels. When the third wave came, he would be ready. But the third wave didn't come from space. Penelope had spent the 8 hours between the second and third attacks in communication with Archivist Nexo, learning everything she could about the underground tunnel systems beneath the Kytheran cities. The Phoenix, using its advanced stealth capabilities, had descended into the planet's atmosphere and landed in a concealed valley 50 kilometers from the Great Library. "Commander, this is insane," Lieutenant Commander Nakamura said as he checked his equipment one final time. "We're about to assault a fortified position with 200 people against thousands of hegemony ground forces." "We're not assaulting anything," Penelope replied, shouldering her pack. "We're rescuing 50,000 civilians and stealing the most valuable library in the galaxy. There's a difference." Dr. Volkov looked up from her portable laboratory. "I've finished analyzing the hegemony biological samples from their atmospheric contamination. They're silicon-based life forms, vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies. I've programmed our weapons accordingly." Chief O'Brien consulted her tactical display. "Exit routes are mapped and ready. The Phoenix will be in position for emergency extraction in 30 minutes. They moved through the Kytheran tunnel system like ghosts, guided by Nexo's intimate knowledge of the ancient passages. The Kytheran architecture was beautiful, even in ruins, flowing organic curves that seemed to grow from the stone itself, covered in scripts and artwork from a dozen different civilizations. The first hegemony patrol they encountered never knew what hit them. The silicon-based soldiers simply collapsed as Earth's modified energy weapons disrupted their neural systems. Penelope's team moved deeper into the complex, gathering Kytheran survivors as they went. "This is incredible," whispered Dr. Volkov as they passed through a massive chamber filled with crystalline data storage units. "This single room contains more information than all of Earth's libraries combined." Archivist Nexo appeared from behind a fallen column, his tall, graceful form moving with surprising speed despite his injuries. "Commander Tavian, you came down to the surface. Why would you risk so much?" "Because sometimes you have to get your hands dirty to save what matters," Penelope replied. "How many of your people can we move?" "All of them, if your plan works. The deep vaults connect to the ancient sea caves. From there, we can reach the surface away from hegemony patrols." As they guided streams of Kytheran civilians through the tunnels, Penelope received the signal she had been waiting for. "Commander, this is Admiral Cross. The combined fleet is in position, all 37 ships." "Understood, Admiral. Begin the final phase." Above them, in the cold darkness of space, the largest human military force ever assembled prepared for battle. But this time, they weren't attacking the hegemony fleet directly. Every Earth ship fired simultaneously at the planet's surface. The bombardment wasn't aimed at cities or people. Instead, it targeted specific geological formations that Dr. Volkov had identified, underground magma chambers that could be destabilized with precise energy bursts. War Prime Thakmor watched in confusion as the human fleet ignored his massive armada and instead attacked an empty planet. What were they trying to accomplish? He got his answer when the seismic shockwaves began. The planet's crust, destabilized by the precise bombardment, began to shift and crack. Massive earthquakes shook the surface, and volcanic activity erupted across 3 continents. The hegemony ground forces found themselves dealing with a natural disaster of unprecedented scale. But the earthquakes were just the beginning. Deep beneath the surface, Penelope's team had reached the ancient sea caves where nearly 50,000 Kytheran survivors waited in the darkness. The caves were enormous, carved by millennia of tidal action into a network of chambers that could hold a small city. "Nexo, are you sure about this?" Penelope asked, looking at the massive tidal mechanism the Kytherans had revealed. "Our ancestors built this as an emergency system 12,000 years ago. It was designed to flood the surface in case of invasion, then drain it again when the danger passed. We never thought we would need to use it." The mechanism was a marvel of ancient engineering, a series of locks and channels that could redirect the planet's oceans through the underground cave system and up to the surface through volcanic vents. When activated, it would turn the inhabited continents into temporary seas. "Commander," came Admiral Cross's voice over the comm, "seismic activity is reaching critical levels. Whatever you're planning, now would be good." Penelope nodded to Nexo, who placed his hands on the ancient controls. "For the children," he said simply, and activated the system. The ocean came like the wrath of gods. Water roared through the cave system with tremendous force, carrying the Kytheran survivors in specially designed pods that rode the current like seeds on the wind. The flood burst from volcanic vents across the planet's surface, creating temporary seas that swept away hegemony ground forces and equipment. In space, War Prime Thakmor watched in horror as his invasion force was literally washed away. But his rage turned to shock when the floods began to recede, revealing something impossible. The Kytheran survivors weren't drowning, they were swimming. Dr. Volkov had discovered during her research that the Kytherans were amphibious, capable of surviving underwater for extended periods. The flood that would have killed most species was merely an inconvenience for them. As the waters drained back into the ocean through carefully designed channels, 50,000 Kytheran civilians emerged from tidal pools and temporary lakes across the planet's surface. They began moving in coordinated groups toward extraction points where Earth shuttles waited. "Impossible!" War Prime Thakmor bellowed. "How did they coordinate such a complex operation?" His answer came in the form of Admiral Cross's voice broadcasting on all frequencies. "War Prime Thakmor of the Hegemony, this is Fleet Admiral Cross of the Terran Defense Force. You're going to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you." The massive alien commander appeared on the main screen, his crystalline features twisted with rage. "Human! Your pathetic fleet cannot stand against the might of the hegemony." "You're right," Admiral Cross replied calmly. "In a straight fight, you'd crush us. But we didn't come here for a straight fight. We came here to teach you something about picking on people smaller than yourself." On cue, every Earth ship in the system began broadcasting the same signal. Detailed tactical data about hegemony ship designs, weapon systems, and battle formations. Information that could only have been gathered by careful observation during the previous attacks. For the past 12 hours, while you've been focused on our ships, our people have been studying you. We now know everything about your technology, your tactics, and your weaknesses. And we're not keeping that information to ourselves. The broadcast went out on every frequency known to the galactic community. Within hours, every spacefaring civilization within 50 light years would have detailed intelligence about how to defeat hegemony forces. War Prime. Thakmor realized the trap too late. "You have doomed yourselves. We will return with 1,000 ships." "Maybe," Admiral Cross acknowledged, "but now everyone will know how to fight you. Every peaceful species you've been bullying for the past millennium will know that your ships can be disabled by targeting their power coupling arrays. They'll know that your ground forces can't operate in high electromagnetic environments. They'll know that your command structure collapses when communication between ships is disrupted." As if to demonstrate the point, 3 hegemony vessels suddenly went dark as their power systems failed. Teams of Kytheran technicians, guided by Earth intelligence, had infiltrated the ships and sabotaged them from within. "The age of easy conquest is over," Admiral Cross continued. "From now on, every world you attack will know exactly how to hurt you. Every species you threaten will have the tools to fight back. You can try to destroy us, but you can't destroy the knowledge we've shared. War Prime." Thakmor stared at the tactical display showing his crippled ships and the successful evacuation of the Kytheran population. For 1,000 years, the hegemony had ruled through fear and overwhelming force. Now, in a single day, a species they had never heard of had turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. "This isn't over, humans." "No," Admiral Cross agreed, "but it's changed. You came here expecting to fight frightened librarians. Instead, you found the galaxy's new protectors, and we're not going anywhere." The hegemony fleet withdrew from the Proxima system, but not before suffering a final humiliation. As they prepared to enter hyperspace, every ship in their fleet began playing the same sound. Kytheran music, beautiful and haunting, broadcast from the surface below. It was the sound of a civilization refusing to die. 6 months later, Commander Penelope Tavian stood in the Great Library of Nkaitha, the rebuilt archive world that had become the first joint human-Kytheran colony. Around her, children of both species played together while their parents worked side by side, sharing knowledge and building something new. Archivist Nexo approached, carrying a data crystal that sparkled with internal light. "Commander, the final volume of the archive compendium is complete. Every piece of knowledge saved from our original world, plus everything we've learned from Earth's databases." Penelope accepted the crystal reverently. And the other colonies? 17 worlds have requested archive installations. The knowledge will be preserved and shared freely, just as it should be. Dr. Volkov joined them, her face bright with excitement. Penelope, you need to see this. We've been analyzing the communications we intercepted during the battle. The hegemony wasn't just trying to steal the archives. They were trying to prevent other species from accessing them. What do you mean? The Kithrin archives contain detailed information about hundreds of extinct civilizations, including their technology and defensive strategies. The hegemony has been deliberately destroying that knowledge to keep their victims helpless. Nexo's expression grew thoughtful. So, by saving our archives and sharing them freely, we've armed every peaceful species in the galaxy with the tools they need to defend themselves. Penelope finished. The hegemony's victims now have access to 1,000 years of accumulated defensive knowledge. As if summoned by their conversation, Admiral Cross's image appeared on the communication screen. Behind him, Earth's expanded fleet could be seen through the observation windows. 60 ships now, with more under construction. Commander, I have news. The Altarian Confederation has successfully repelled a hegemony invasion using tactics from the archives. The Vegan Trade Alliance has done the same. Intelligence suggests that hegemony forces are avoiding systems where archive installations are known to exist. Penelope smiled. They're learning that knowledge really is power. There's more. The Galactic... Commander, I have news. The Altarian Confederation has successfully repelled a hegemony invasion using tactics from the archives. The Vegan Trade Alliance has done the same. Intelligence suggests that hegemony forces are avoiding systems where archive installations are known to exist. Penelope smiled. They're learning that knowledge really is power. There's more. The Galactic Peacekeeping Council has formally invited Earth to join as a founding member. Apparently, our methods of aggressive pacifism have impressed them. Lieutenant Commander Nakamura looked up from his research station. Admiral, what exactly is aggressive pacifism? Admiral Cross chuckled. It's when you end a war by making it impossible for the aggressors to start new ones. Instead of just defeating enemies, you give their victims the tools to defeat themselves. As the months passed, the strategy proved remarkably effective. Hegemony expansion slowed, then stopped entirely as their target worlds became increasingly capable of defending themselves. Other aggressive empires found themselves facing similar problems as archived knowledge of their tactics spread throughout the galaxy. But the real victory wasn't military, it was cultural. The joint human-Kytheran archives became centers of learning and cooperation. Species that had been isolated by fear began to communicate and share resources. Trade routes opened, cultural exchanges flourished, and scientific collaboration accelerated at an unprecedented pace. Penelope often found herself thinking about that first distress call, and how one desperate plea for help had changed everything. The Kytherans had asked for someone to remember they existed. Instead, they had found partners who helped them ensure that the memory of every lost civilization would be preserved forever. Standing in the observation deck of the rebuilt Great Library, watching ships from a dozen different species dock at the orbital platforms, Penelope reflected on how far they had all come. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, but it was no longer a lonely one. Commander, came Nexo's voice from behind her, we're receiving another distress call, a species called the Meridians, 3 systems away. They say the hegemony is coming. Penelope turned from the window, already reaching for her communication unit. Patch me through to Admiral Cross. Tell him we need the fleet ready for deployment. All of it? All of it. And make sure the Meridians know that help is coming. Tell them what we told you 6 months ago. What's that? Penelope smiled as she headed for the docking bay where the Phoenix waited, now equipped with the most advanced technology 2 civilizations could create together. Tell them they waited for allies, but Earth sends avenging ghosts. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the best way to end a war is to make sure it never starts again. And sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a gun or a bomb, it's the knowledge that someone somewhere cares enough to answer when strangers call for help. As the combined human-Kytheran fleet departed for the Meridian system, their ships carried more than weapons and soldiers. They carried the accumulated wisdom of 1,000 civilizations, the hope of the oppressed, and the promise that in a galaxy full of predators, there were now guardians as well. The age of easy conquest was over, the age of protected knowledge had begun. And in the deep archives of New Kytha, the children of two worlds played together, learning that the universe was vast and dangerous, but they were not alone.